Well, hello there, kids and cadets. Welcome to the FSF PopCast. This is our Sidebar edition.
Yep.
I am not late. It's 7 o'clock right on the dot. Jeez.
I watched the timer end and then you hit live. I mean,
Well, yeah, but I can't do the thing before the thing is supposed to be thinged. Anyway,
oh my.
This is our Sidebar review. Exactly. Oh my. Our live review show of the Skeleton Crew for Star Wars. They are space pirating their way through 6 episodes so far, and it has been a lot of fun. This week's episode was directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, and
Yes.
which I always look forward to anything she does in the Star Wars universe. Anytime I see that she's on the directorial list, because I really like what she's done so far. And yeah, it's like I feel like she's got like the magic touch. Every episode I've enjoyed.
This was her 4th episode of Star Wars that she's done, because she did 2
Yeah,
Mandalorian, 1 Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Now this, and they've actually been like the better episodes of those seasons.
Agreed. Yeah, and yeah, Bryce Dallas Howard is amazing. Not only as an actress, but I think honestly she may be better as a director. And I think she's a good actress, by the way.
I just need to talk my daughter into watching Jurassic World with me. She says it's too scary for her. What does the 6-year-old know?
Well, but she's 6. And honestly, if anybody who can run that fast in heels, impressive.
I'm pretty sure that there was some film magic involved there, but
even if there wasn't, still,
yeah, I don't care.
The CGI was very impressive. Yeah, she'll get there. One scary dinosaur at a time, John.
Yep.
But yeah, so tonight we are, like I said, we are talking about Skeleton Crew episode 6. So we're excited about that. But real quick, just as a reminder, our show is made possible only by the support of our show partners and you, our viewers and listeners. Of course, so we want to say thank you to Bones Coffee Company. If you go to their website and use code FSF PopCast, you will get 10% off your order. If you go to TCT, which is where fandom meets fashion, and use code, I believe it's FSF15, you'll get 15% off your order. If you go to Eddie AI, if you want to make shorts and videos like we do on our TikTok channel and YouTube and Instagram or wherever we post them, Eddie AI is the premier place to do it, and they do a fantastic job with a wonderful staff. And of course, Level Up Sabers, because it is the only lightsaber guaranteed to be better than a stick.
And they are.
And the owner's just a genuinely nice guy, and we really like him.
He's a delight.
Kathleen says there's a trick to running in heels. I'm gonna take your word for it, because I've never even put on heels, so
I would like somebody to explain that trick to me sometime. It's not something I want to attempt myself.
No, but maybe it's one of those things where you watch it happen and go, "Oh, that was cool." So, beer. Okay, yeah, good. All right,
Jurassic World and beer. There we go.
There you go. All right, and by the way, before we get too much farther, and you haven't signed up for our free loot yet, there is a link down in the show notes down below, and if you sign up and click the button that says "Win Free Loot," you have an opportunity to win a digital code for Gladiator 2, which is available now. In fact, you can bring home Gladiator 2 on digital now. Denzel Washington, Pedro Pascal, Paul Mescal, Connie Nielsen star in this action-packed epic by the film critics are calling one of the most entertaining films of the year, and get over an hour of next-level extras, including deleted scenes, featurettes, and more. Available at participating retailers. Rated R from Paramount Pictures. Or click the link down below, free loot. Maybe you'll win a copy. And if you don't win on this one, the cool thing is when you click to win free loot, not only are you signed up for this entry, you're signed up for every entry going forward. You have a chance to win automagic loot. It automatically happens. Automagic.
Okay,
I just want to say it one more time. Mostly because I could. All right, and just as a reminder, Trek Talks 4 is coming on January 18th, hosted by John Billingsley and Bonnie Gordon. This is an all-day telethon featuring interviews, panels, and everything of your favorite Star Trek people, and it's all to benefit the Hollywood Food Coalition. The Hollywood Food Coalition is very important. They do an amazing job of getting food to the people who need it most. And as a matter of fact, on January 13th, John Billingsley will be here in virtual studio with us to talk about Trek Talks 4, what's going on, and how you can support it, and where you can watch it, people who are going to be on, other Trek actors who will be on. It'll be a lot of fun. So John Billingsley, Dr. Phlox from Star Trek Enterprise will be joining us on the 13th to talk about Trek Talks 4 on the 18th. All right. We have sufficiently delayed Skeleton Crew review long enough. Let's get into it.
So because we're doing that on the 13th, that means our game's postponed until the 20th, right?
Absolutely. Yes. I forgot about that.
Okay. Yeah.
So, because normally we would run our Star Wars RPG on the second Monday of every month, which this January would fall on the 13th. But because of the special nature of Trek Talks 4, we're bumping that a week to try and do our part to help out, because we are a Trek Talks ambassador. So
yes, some things are more important than fun.
Sometimes, yeah, but we're gonna have fun while doing the important things. That's gonna be that's gonna be the good part. So last week when we left off with the crew, Wim had just pulled the trapdoor button. They all fell through. Now I couldn't find an image of it, but they went down through those slides and everything else, and they ended up on the beach edge. And they're down there.
Yeah, very Goonies, but with an Empire Strikes Back twist.
A little bit, right?
Yeah, I liked it. That's what I absolutely love about this show. It is such an 80s movie using modern technology. It is just wonderful and
very, very much a throwback feel. But what we see here on the transpiring on the beach is a little bit of discord among the friends. Because prior to this image right here, we see this. KB's laying on the ground. She's having a hard time moving. And she's saying that her servos are freezing up a little bit.
Yeah. Her augs are corroded.
Yeah, her augs. Yeah. And so she's having a hard time moving. And what they're looking at on the previous picture, this one here, is they're seeing their ship up on the hill. And they're like, yeah, we can just climb up the edge of the rock. And KB's saying, well, I can't do it.
Right.
It's impossible for me to do it. But Fern's not listening. Fern's like, we got to do this. We're going to do it. Come on. And the friends split up. And it's kind of an unlikely pairing, which was kind of interesting. Yeah. And I thought worked really well for the show. Neil and Fern split off, and Wim and KB split off.
Yeah.
I didn't see that happening.
That. I was surprised that Neil went with Fern, but maybe it was his sense of wanting to make sure she had help. I don't know.
Yeah, because he is the goodest boy on that show. I mean, he wants to make sure that everybody's okay. He wants to make sure everybody's okay and happy and safe. And I love that about Neil. But yeah, what we're seeing is that there's this initial divide in the episode. And we're going to come back to this a little bit more because I think it's more appropriate in the next section. But there's some really nice lessons that are gained from the split of the friends and some of the conversations that are had. So, but yeah, we'll come back to that in just a couple of minutes. So we had that, but I also noticed something, and I don't know if anybody else caught this earlier in the season. Maybe I'm just late to the party. That's a distinct possibility. Because I'm me, and enough said. But looking at her visor and the whole ear thing and all of that, I finally realized she reminded me of Lobot from Empire Strikes Back.
A little bit,
and with her augs and everything, and but yeah, I was like, because, and we're gonna get into this a little bit more here in just a moment, but that was. Lobots are very, augmented, cybernetic, mechanically, cybernetic. You can shut them down with a button. They can have systems malfunctions, all the things that we saw with KB happening in this episode. So I was kind of one of those things as I was watching it on Tuesday night, I went, oh, that's a neat little throwback to Empire Strikes Back that I never recognized before, because I thought that those were just like a headband cool visor thing that she was wearing, and she could drop those down if and when she wanted to, and by golly, look at how cool I can see things now.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe they were just doing like a sideways, not a sideways, but a kind of an adjacent nudge to, high, next generation type of thing.
Yeah. I mean, there was that hint about her mom's mentioning that they couldn't detect her life monitor anymore. But, I mean, some parents are a little more protective. So it wasn't until they started talking about there having been an accident in this episode, they're like, oh, she's medically fragile.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's part of what we're going to bring up in just a couple minutes. Because that so many things with this episode made other episodes make sense.
Yeah. Which is how stories work.
Right, exactly. It's how a good story works when you go, oh, that's what they meant by that in that episode. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, you don't info dump the whole story in 5 minutes. You tell it over time.
Which is why people who didn't like The Acolyte need to go back and watch The Acolyte, because they didn't get past episode 1 and all the good stuff was revealed in 5 through 8. Anyway, moving on.
It's an excellent point, but anyway.
Just had to get that in there. Anyway.
That's my theory.
Exactly. So we saw the kids coming down the slopes. They have their argument. The screen changes to this fine fellow coming up through the ground like he has just won the lottery, because frankly he did. He's got jewels all over him and chains, and SM33 comes up a couple seconds later looking much the same way. Only to find out that he is not alone, because Gunter, who I thought died in the acid bath, did not.
Right. And I'm actually pleasantly surprised by this, because, on the one hand, it would have been interesting to have Captain Silvo, whatever his name is, Dash, Jod, whatever, be that ruthless and kill off an entire pirate crew with a flick of a switch. But it's just funny that it didn't work out for him.
Right?
He did the evil thing and it bit him in the butt.
Exactly. And, because I think we both thought that entire pirate squad was gone, but maybe they were just yelling at him because he unleashed the acid, but it didn't hurt him. And they were just like, Silvo, whatever your name is this week, Crimson Jack, I mean, come on, the guy's got like 12 names so far in this series.
Yeah.
He's the most named fellow. But one of the things that absolutely cracked me up about this episode, and I would love, one of these things I love about Star Wars is we get introduced to these characters and people in the episodes, and you're just kind of like, I really want to meet more of them.
Oh yeah.
And that's Pocket. I love Pocket. Okay. She cracks me up. And I love the fact that as he's standing there, she walks up to him and is like, "Oh, no hard feelings, right, Dash?" And she puts her arm around him, and I was laughing. I was like, "Oh, that's fantastic." It was just really nicely played, really nicely done. And it's just fun to hear Merida in live action. So Kelly MacDonald is the voice of Merida from the Disney movie Brave, and that is Kelly MacDonald right there playing Pocket. So one
of my favorite bounty hunters so far, just her personality.
Yeah, right. Oh yeah, the fact that she could have killed him. She had every opportunity to, but I love the fact that she was like, "No, I'll go vindictive and get my money." Instead of getting vendetta, she wanted, vindication. And I thought that was kind of fun. I'm going to skip this next image because I put it out of sequence, because that's what I do.
It is.
So there we go. But so part of the reason why the kids split is, Wim saw these little crabs and he thought for sure, because that they could mimic what he was saying, that they had to be intelligent, sentient beings, and that they would follow him or lead him rather to safety. And I thought it was kind of funny that he's like, "Yeah, they can talk to me." I'm like, no. They're only mimicking what you're saying. They're repeating it right back to him. He would say home and they would say home, and he would say, "Take me to your leader." And they're like, "Leader," and
Yeah. What I thought was cool about these guys is their stop motion.
Yeah.
You know, like that is another old. They stopped using it in the 80s technology.
Yeah.
That we get to see. And I mean, it's done with modern technology, so it looks a little better. But there's something about having a real object.
Yeah. These guys, and then they led them to the boss, also stop motion. And this was very Clash of the Titans.
Yeah. I mean,
just like, guy's face, how cool is that?
Yeah. His face reminded me of something out of like the Dark Crystal or, yeah, exactly. Or some other weird 80s movie that I can't think of the title of that I probably watched.
I saw it. Now, I haven't personally watched them because I just never interested me, but somebody said the face of this crab reminded them of the spiders from Harry Potter. So whatever that means, I don't know. I haven't watched it. I couldn't tell you. And I'm sure somebody's going to come at me in the comments being like, oh my God, you haven't watched Harry Potter. I just didn't care. Never. You're the wrong never strummed my guitar, you know? Yeah. But anyway, but yeah, this was a really cool use of stop motion. And it was cool. Like you said, this is 80s movies, all these things that are vintage, you know, definitely has that feel. Oh, so cute. I will call it Princess McSparkle Butt.
Thank you for the idea. Anyway.
Why do I feel that's coming back on January 20th? Guitar strings are evil. They can be. But yeah.
Okay, so Kathleen helped me change my strings once, and the high E string broke, and it hit her in a place that I'd rather not hit her. And it kind of hurt. And that's why you wear thick shirts when changing guitar strings. Anyway. Unless you're good at it.
Oh, okay. I was not expecting that comment, but that's fantastic.
Okay.
All right. So, but yeah, so I really did enjoy writing the Sweater Puppies.
Yep.
So I loved Wim's comment when they finally get here and they realize that this big crab wants to eat them, and he's like, why do I always pick the bad guys?
Yeah, you know, that's an interesting thing where you go through life at certain stages of life. It's like, okay, that was a stupid decision. Why do I keep making decisions?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kathleen says that maybe buy cheap strings.
Well, they were guitar strings, not bass strings, so they're cheap by comparison. Okay.
Let's see. There you go. But yeah, and I think I just kind of feel like Wim's that guy who makes his gut decisions on a whim, and pun unintended. I just realized what I did there.
Oh yeah.
That was actually that was pun unintended. But yeah, so he's just maybe that's why he's Wim. He's making decisions on a whim. He just kind of goes with it. However the wind blows is where he's going. And he's like, oh, these crabs will be great. They'll help us. We can go with them. And then he realizes that maybe that wasn't the thing, and maybe we shouldn't do that.
No.
Why do I always pick the bad guy?
Life decisions should not be made like to follow the crabs.
Right.
No.
Actually, maybe I didn't put it out of order. I just realized that in the story mode. All right, I'm good. All right, we're going to go back to this because, I jumped past something thinking I had put it out of order, but we didn't because they're saved by Fern and Neil here shortly. But this image right here, this is what I wanted to talk about a little bit more in depth because we're looking at KB sitting down on the shore edge. Her Augs have frozen. She's trying to coach Wim through doing what she needs and melting these pieces to make a whatever it was. I can't remember what she called it, but to melt the piece that needs to go back into the back of her head. And, that's when I realized that she was probably most like Lobot, really, is because when that tray comes out the back of her head and, he's pulling the stuff out and doing, I'm like, oh. And this is where we really get into the conversation about ability versus disability.
Yeah.
And we come to realize that KB is a medically fragile child. And that's why her mother, like you mentioned earlier, that's why her mother was so worried. That's why it was necessary for her to have that life monitor on her wrist. That's, which was a nice callback to the Ewok movies. But so we're starting to realize this, and she is feeling sad and angry even, because she's realizing that Fern wants to go do all these things, but she just can't. That she is unable to do these things because of the accident and the things that have happened since then.
Right. And there's a big difference between not being able to do something because you don't want to and genuinely not being able to, especially if that's beyond your control. And so this is a huge character moment, but it's a huge thing that people need to realize about just other humans in the real world. We can't all do the same things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And just because you don't see disability doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Absolutely. And I thought they did a really good job of that, because it wasn't and even look, and honestly, this is one of those moments where I look back at the series where I was saying earlier, where something happens in the story and you go, oh, that makes sense now because of these other things.
Yeah.
Some of the things that were said earlier in the series by KB and what has happened in her life makes sense now. Okay, so she has a couple things that have happened to her. She's been through a bad accident. She's got some disability, and it's not for lack of want to do the things. She wants to do the things. She's a kid. She wants to be a kid, but she is unable to do it. And so I just thought it was a really nice lesson about acceptance, looking past people's disabilities, and instead of, and learning to work with them instead of working against them in those instances. Because here's a kid who wants to be a kid and do all the things that the kids do. But at some point, she has to sit down. She has to rest. She has to recoup. She has to, and in this case, literally recharge her batteries in order to be able to move forward again. And I just thought it was a really nice lesson, very nicely done.
And then, at the end of that, when she's like, "Hey, you saved me, Jedi,"
Yeah, I bet you thought saving someone's life would be more exciting.
Yeah. It was plenty exciting.
Yeah, it was, I didn't understand what was going on. I thought that, so her joints are just locking up. But then as she started moving slower and slower and slower, I was like, oh no, she's dying.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. At first I just thought, it's just
go ahead.
Yeah. I just thought it was a simple computerized joint thing, and this metal piece they're putting back in there that refreshes it, like a silver bullet type of thing. I'm like, oh, this is great. Okay. And then, but as she started, her head started going lower and lower, and the actress who's playing KB did a phenomenal job at this, portraying that emotion, what was happening to her, all these different things, and then just the slow, deliberate speech, and breathing, and you could just the pained look on her face. I'm like, these are kids. These are kids, and the acting is so good. These kids are carrying this show so well.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, these should be seasoned veterans. Oh no, these are all kids. They're kids.
Yeah.
They're rocking it, and they're kids. Okay.
But they're great. Yeah. Like, seriously, her portrayal of that, and like the panic in Wim in that moment. It's like, because I work in a hospital, I see kind of upsetting medical situations on a regular basis, and this may have caused some flashbacks.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood.
So pretty well done.
Yeah, we won't even acknowledge the fact that that her initials are the same as my daughter's, and there's some other medical challenge similarities, but we're just gonna move past all that.
Yeah.
I didn't have any PTSD flashbacks. I'm okay. So anyway,
beep, beep, beep.
Yeah, don't do that.
Okay, sorry.
I'm fine. I'm okay. All right. But yeah, so one of the other things that I really appreciated about this episode, we'll go past the really cool stop motion again, and what for one more time, just for Innocence Lost, Princess McSparkle Butt. There we go.
Yes.
Okay, we had some very piratey moments in this episode.
I loved it.
They went full on piratey. I mean, some of the things we've had some pirate-esque moments and some nods to different pirate things. But I really felt like they were full on in pirate mode in this episode. You know, you had the pirate court here with Brutus holding over it and, you know, ready to throw him out the airlock, which is, I would assume, is their version of walking the plank.
Yes, it is.
You know, but no, go ahead.
They have the code. They have, I don't remember the character's name who's standing in the back here, but she's basically the code says this, we're going to follow this rule, you know,
right?
Reminding them what the actual rules are.
Jod is sitting across from him, hearing that, you know, all these things that, hey, you're about to get, you're basically, you're dead. We're going to kill you. You suck. And he and he's like, well, I'm going to enact pirate code.
Yep.
And that's when she gets into it. And then he's walking around and he's really starting to fire up the men, all these different pirates in the room. And not to mention that during all of this, as he's walking around, right when about this scene hits right here, he starts into a sea shanty, a pirate shanty. I was like, oh my God, they got a shanty into this. This is fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, you can't play one on a harp. We learned that last week, but which I think you can actually, but anyway. And like his subtle little digs too. He's like, Brutus makes a fine first mate.
Right. Yeah.
You know, like undermining the confidence, setting up the next mutiny. Yeah.
Yeah. Just getting right in underneath it. Yeah. He's fine for a first mate, but if you want a big score.
Yeah. I was impressed.
And I did. I liked that. I liked his speech. I liked the fact that he went into the shanty. And I like the fact that, that not only did the shanty, kind of unify the entirety of the room, but it reminded them where the treasure was at, because he's trying to tell them, hey, it's at Atten. That's where we need to go. This is the treasure planet. And he holds up the Old Republic credit. And he's like, he's like, there's more of them there. And one of the other guys is like, I knew it when I saw them on the, at the pirate. I can't remember the name of the pirate. I'm just going to call it the pirate base. When we first see the kids, they go to that place and he's like, I knew it when they pulled those out. There had to be more of them. I mean, the fact that they were flashing Old Republic credits and got to live is, at this point, you kind of realize is even more impressive.
Really is.
But that's what plot armor is for, and the kids needed plot armor at that point to help them get out of that situation. But not only did they sing the shanty, but then like the whole room gets involved in the shanty. They're all talking about Atten, but Brutus was not having any of it. I don't think he liked being called a first mate again when he was now Captain Brutus. Can't be positive. But he does grab Jod, throw him up against the window, and hit the space lock button, the airlock button, to watch all the garbage go out into space. And you can just see the look on Jod's face of, I'm a piece of glass away from dying.
Yes, indeed.
But yeah, so that's kind of cool. So Fern, and all this time, Fern and Neil, which we haven't talked much about, we're trying to climb the side of the mountain, but Fern also learned a valuable lesson, which I couldn't find a picture of this either. Fern learned the importance of teamwork, because she had to support Neil coming up the side of the mountain, because as he was reminding her, he has stubby little elephant legs and he couldn't reach and climb like she could. And so she tied a rope to him, and then they would only move together in unison, which I thought was actually really good for her character. Again, good character development, because now we're seeing her having to work work with her team instead of being just I'm the leader and we're going to do what I want. What Fern says goes.
Right. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool too. And maybe she'll take that lesson back to how she deals with KB in the next couple episodes.
I'm hoping so.
Maybe. I'm
hoping so. It would be nice to see. And so the ship flies away. It's got the 4 like drone droids attached to it to fly it, and they don't know where it's going, but they hop onto the drone droids and they're able to fly by and save Wim and KB from the crabs. They jump onto that and they all go fly to try and save the Onyx Cinder, which at this point in the show looks like this. Which is how we've seen it the entire time, which you're like, oh, it's the Onyx Cinder. It's nothing special. It's nothing great. But the one drone droid falls. They roll off into another hillside over there. Mm-hmm. And then you hear this really loud clanking and banging and crushing. And they realize that the Onyx Cinder is about to become Cinder because it's getting ready to go through a compactor over there, and there's a big blast furnace. Looks like they're basically getting ready to melt the Onyx Cinder.
Yeah.
And so they all very quickly run over there, almost at Jedi speed, I thought, but because they didn't show how long it took, but as fast as that thing was moving,
it was the speed of plot.
It was the speed of plot, exactly.
The whole end of this episode is the speed of plot.
It is. Because things in some sections, things happen as fast as the plot needed it to, and then some things went as slow as the plot needed it to, which I also thought was impressive.
And that's an 80s thing. It was a wild time. Movies didn't necessarily make sense, but they were fun.
They were fun. You had a good time. It doesn't matter if there were plot holes, because you had fun. You enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But what we see,
there were people on YouTube to complain about the movies. So
exactly. There weren't jackwagons like us going, well, that plot part didn't work out the right way.
I was entertained. Bottom line, I was entertained. That's all that matters.
Exactly. But yeah, so the kids get down to the ship and they all get in there, and all of them, they realize that they have to work together as a team to get this out of there. KB has to go to the engine room, basically become Scotty of the Enterprise. And I love the fact that she's like hitting the buttons and it's not starting, so she smacks it and all the lights turn on. I was like,
percussive maintenance.
Percussive maintenance, exactly. All of a sudden it works. Like it never missed a beat. And I love the fact that they're trying to pull away, and this person's hitting this button, this person's okay, Neil, you run the throttle, I'll work the sticks. And I love the fact that KB is back there. And she's like, I can give you one more push. Like it was almost Scotty. I'm giving her all she's got, Captain.
I was thinking the same thing.
It was just there was a lot of parts of this show where little things entertained me greatly. And some of the stop motion callbacks, the little piratey things, and now this scene, and just the little humor points between the kids and them getting to learn how to do things. And Wim is like, well, I don't want to be left out. Maybe I can shoot it. And we go back to our New Hope era, and he's back in the gunner's seat trying to blast it free, but that had some really strong metal on it, and all he was putting out was blaster marks.
Yeah, that armor's too thick for blasters, kid.
Exactly. There we go. Set them up, you knock them down.
Yep.
But after a couple minutes, they are able to pull away from the incinerator, but not like this.
Yeah.
There's a different ship underneath that the exoskeleton. I'll get it right yet. I know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, they used the whole detonation system they weren't supposed to touch. And anytime there's a big red button on the control panel that somebody says, "Don't ever touch this," it's just like in Fanboys. At some point. Just like in Fanboys, you're going to have to touch the button.
Exactly. Never touch the button. By the way, kids, if you haven't watched Fanboys, Please go watch Fanboys. I make too many references to that movie for you guys not to have watched it at this point. But yeah, so, and it's actually a pretty cool looking ship without all that crap over top of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of a blend of the X-Men's Blackbird and the Normandy from Mass Effect, I think.
Yeah.
Kind of a little bit of,
a little bit.
Yeah. But it looks so cool. Claims he's
on the new ship. I hate to say it, but that is a line that is going to have a lot of life and live rent free in my head for some time to come, because that was honestly one of those moments where I, quite frankly, laughed out loud.
Oh yeah,
and
such a kid thing to say.
I was like, exactly, very much so. But yeah, it was, and it was just so much fun. Claims he's on the new ship. I mean, I've already used it a couple times last night, once or twice today.
Yeah.
Or more. But because, so I work at an auto dealership, and we had a delivery of new trucks this morning. As I was pulling in the drive at work, all these new trucks were coming off the delivery truck. So our very Russian truck driver, who's with the trucking service, frankly, I don't think watches Star Wars, nor did he understand when I yelled out, claims he's on the new ship. He was very, very confused. He just kind of looked at me like, I think he thought I swore. Claims he's on the new crap. But I'm like, Star Wars, Skeleton Crew. And he's like, whatever, dude. And yeah, he just left me at my own devices.
One of these days, somebody will mistake you for a responsible adult.
Too many people have tried already. That's part of the problem.
Yeah.
So, what do we think is coming next in this old Skeleton Crew?
Well, everybody has the coordinates for At-Atten now. So, I'm guessing
everything's pointing back.
They're going to get there, and we're going to find out who the supervisor is. And I'm guessing it's Captain Renard or Captain Renard's. Maybe it's concubine. I don't know. She was mentioned. They were mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's
a concubine? That's enough of this discussion.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that was one of those moments where it's like, yeah. I'll repeat the question because I'm no.
What's a concubine?
Oh man. You don't realize what television is until you watch it with a 6-year-old.
Exactly. I understand that.
Oh yeah.
So it looks like everybody's pointing back towards At-Atten. I think we're going to have a bit of a dust up there, not necessarily with the kids, but between the pirates and the crews that are designed to protect At-Atten from being found. Now, what all that entails, I don't know. But episode 8 is going to be directed by the same guy who directed episode 1. So it gives him a chance to bookend the story, not only start it, but finish it and get in, hopefully help us close it out properly. And I'm hoping we have a nice long episode for episode 8. I haven't checked run times yet. I don't think they've released the runtime for episode 8 yet, but I'm hoping that that's going to be a nice long episode to help kind of bookend what we've seen here, point towards what's coming up. And I think what we're going to see is that this is going to tie in somewhere, somehow into the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody's going to get all that money.
It's got to go somewhere.
Yep.
Somewhere, somehow. Now, one more thing, and I'm going to take this off screen here for just a second.
Did you just Columbo me?
I did, and thank you for getting the reference. Man. But I want to share something on the screen because I want to talk about this for just a quick moment. I have to be able to figure out how to do the thing here because the things are not thinging. Which
I hate it when the things don't thing.
I know, it's horrible. Okay, should be it. So I'm putting this picture up for us to look at and talk about. Now, this happened clearly last week's episode. We're seeing Jod, Silvo, Dash, whatever you want to call him, Crimson Jack, holding the lightsaber. Now, there's been thoughts and ideas this whole season that this guy is a Jedi of some sort.
Okay.
And the reason I bring this back up is because I think that clearly at some point he's had Jedi training.
Oh, yeah, obviously.
I think that he is clearly Force sensitive. However, I think the idea of him being a Jedi and then putting that out there with all the things that are happening, I think it's just a lot of smoke and mirrors. I think what he is just he's a bilge rat. He's a pirate. He's pirate scum. He's just a guy. He's a bad guy who has Force powers. And I think, he's not a good guy. He's not a bad guy. He's somewhere. And don't call him a gray Jedi because, by God dang it, they don't exist. Anyway, but yeah, I just think that I don't think he's a Jedi. I think he's just a guy with Force powers, and he may have had some level of Jedi training, but he's old enough to have survived at Order 66, and he would have been through all of that and seen it. And I think that he may have been a Padawan in the system, but when all that went down, he was no longer a Padawan in the system, and left to his own devices.
Yeah, because based on Jude Law's actual age, Silvo, Crimson Jack, whatever, would have been maybe early 20s at the end of the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he could have still been a Padawan, since Kenobi was a Padawan at 26 in Episode 1.
Correct.
Phantom Menace. So, maybe. Or maybe he, later in life learned a few things from a Jedi who was hiding, and recognized his potential. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe they won't answer it at all.
I don't think they will. Honestly, I think it's going to be one of those things and I kind of hope they don't. There are some things in Star Wars where I want answers. There are some things in Star Wars where I like having the mystery. I like having the golly, what is that? And, being able to do what we're doing right now, theorize about it, talk about it, have these conversations. And I think that's good for the fan base in total, where we can have these types of discussions and have some fun with it.
Yeah. And if they don't answer it this season, maybe they could answer it in season 2. Maybe.
If there is a season 2 of Skeleton Crew, if there's a need for a season 2 of Skeleton Crew, which by the way, I totally take another season of Skeleton Crew where they're off running around the kids are off, having adventures, but it would take some Home Alone 2 style shenanigans to get them back off planet again. The four of them. Maybe
not.
I mean,
we could always do it
now, so
5 years in the future, 10 years in the future.
Right.
What are they doing? That's fun.
Right. They're off, adventuring together. It would be a lot of fun. But yeah, I would totally be up. Yeah, I mean, the way that this season has gone and these 6 episodes, I'd totally be down for a whole bunch more of these. And I mean, if they were doing more than 8 episodes a season, we wouldn't have to have that conversation.
Yeah. I mean, they could do 20, 25 episodes a season, have a good 30, 45-minute runtime every single one. I mean, that's a good way to keep people subscribed to your streaming service. Just saying.
We're not saying, but we're just saying.
Oh, no, I'm saying.
That's all I'm saying. Exactly. So, but I think that that's what's coming for next for Skeleton Crew and what's going on. I don't think we're going to have any resolution to whether Jod is or isn't a Jedi, and I think that we're going to have some clashing on At-Aten now that everybody has the coordinates.
Yep.
And we get to find out what's really going on in At-Aten and who's in charge. That's the question that has to be answered. Who's in charge and why is it hidden? And I think that the next 2 episodes is going to reveal that.
Yep.
So
wrap it up like an 80s movie.
Exactly.
Take the mask off the bad guy and all the kids, get a reward.
I would have got away with it too. I admitted for them cotton picking kids. Please let somebody say something along those lines. I would have got, oh my God, Scooby-Doo this thing.
Yes.
Scooby-Doo this thing.
That'd
be phenomenal. Right?
Yes.
Stop motion 1 episode, Scooby-Doo reference the next episode. Yes, please.
Oh yeah.
That'd have been great fun. Speaking of wrapping it up like an 80s episode, that's all, folks. That's all we got. Exactly. But yeah, any parting thoughts before we say our goodbyes?
No, I'm just looking forward to next Tuesday night.
Absolutely. Yeah. And on Threads, if you're not already following us on Threads, there's opportunity for you to do so. All our social media links are listed down below. Click that button and go check us out on Threads, because every Tuesday we call it, we celebrate Cruise Day, as in Skeleton Crew, and Tuesday, therefore it's Cruise Day, and I look forward to every Cruise Day. So on that note, boy, one of these days I'm just going to write it down so I don't forget. But I shouldn't forget because it's stupid. It's so stupid that I forget this. Anyway, may the force be with you as you live long and prosper. Goodbye.
Copyright 2024 FSF PopCast. Reference to any specific product or entity mentioned on this podcast does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by FSF PopCast. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. If you have any questions about this disclaimer, please contact us via email at info@fsfpopcast.com.